Well, hello there, fellow geeks and geekettes, and welcome to yet another episode of Focusing on Artists, in which I focus on artists. Now, I originally wanted to make a separate video about this particular man, actually about a comic book he did in the early 1990s, and call this video In Defense of Rob Liefeld. And now you know who is going to be the main star of this episode. It is obviously Rob Liefeld. Now, why did I want to call the episode In Defense of Rob Liefeld? Because he is one of those artists who tends to be divisive or divisive, whatever you want to pronounce this word. In that there are people who absolutely love him, and there are people who can't stand to look at his artwork. Now, I belong among the people who adore, love, and absolutely cherish Rob Liefeld's art, and I always have loved his art. But now, first, let me give you a little bit of background to this particular man. He is, of course, one of the guys who became huge. At the end of I believe it was 1980s, definitely at the beginning of the 1990s, working for Marvel, and he is mostly, or very often, shall we say, spoken in one sentence or one breath with people like Todd McFarlane or Fabian Nicieza. These were guys who revolutionized comics and comic book artwork and the comic book industry in general in the early 1990s. Todd McFarlane, of course, being, most famous for drawing Spider-Man at Marvel and then leaving to establish Image Comics, and there working mainly on Spawn. Rob Liefeld, well, he went with him, as well as many other guys. Rob Liefeld, as far as his Marvel career goes, I think I would say that he's most famous for working on X-Force and for introducing and developing many characters such as Deadpool or Cable, I believe. Deadpool being these days one of the most famous superheroes, especially thanks to the two movies that were made not that long ago. And there are people who don't like Rob Liefeld not only for his art, but I don't know why they are saying bad things about him. And you know what? I would say that it is just a simple what do you call it? Envy, right? It is simple envy. Think about that. He was very young when he started working for Marvel. He he has his art style is very specific. I'm going to show you just in a minute. Sorry, I've still got a bit of a cold, so you can't really miss it, right? The instant you look at one of his drawings, you know that it is Rob Liefeld, and that is, I think, one of the most important aspects of every artist. You might start like copying somebody or being inspired by somebody, but gradually, ideally, you should develop your own style, thanks to which your fans and readers will recognize you instantly just by a brief look at your work. And Rob Liefeld certainly is that. Other than that, he is a brilliant artist. He's very skilled, he's very prolific, and he managed, when he was very young, to not only revolutionize comics, co-establish the Image Comics, introduce many new characters, but also make millions. So he was able to become a millionaire almost overnight, drawing comic books and writing comic books. So, I think that people who bitch about Rob Liefeld are just envious, right? You try to do that. You try to do all these things that Rob Liefeld did. Not many people can. Very few people can, actually. So, the comic book of choice for, to represent the artwork of Rob Liefeld is the X-Force. from the early 1990s, when, of course, Rob Liefeld got this title when it was still called The New Mutants. He introduced Deadpool famously, I believe, in New Mutants issue 98, if I'm not wrong. It should be. And then there were, I think, 2 or 3 more issues, and then it was renamed to X-Force, which was basically his version of the X-Men team. And you can see them here, right? So you've got characters such as Cable and Domino and Feral, right? And what is it? Dreadstar, Boom Boom, and characters like that. And X-Force became very famous almost instantly, overnight, especially because of the fact that it was a pure, and it is still, a pure 90s action-packed comic book. It's very colorful, it's, as I said, it's full and packed with action. You've got something happening on each and every page. The characters were intriguing. The characters were be it male or female characters that you can identify with when you were a young reader, because at the time still most of the people reading comics were young, you know, so you could really identify with these young mutant characters. And as I said, it was a pure escapism, or is a pure escapism, and that, you know, is what comic books are about. They are fun literature, multimedia literature, words and pictures that, you know, should enable the reader to escape the bleak and grey reality of the primary world. So, without further ado, let me show you just a couple of pages from the X-Force. So look at that. So people are really mostly moaning about the fact that Rob Liefeld didn't really know his anatomy, and that the proportions of the characters that he drew were often weird and not good looking, right? I wouldn't call it an improper or bad anatomy. So, you know, for instance, people could theoretically be dissatisfied with those very thick thighs and tiny feet, right? And they were, one of the complaints is that, and there's Feral, by the way, one of my favorite characters from this series. She's gorgeous, beautiful, funny, and troubled character, because her animalistic side really takes over very often, and she must fight an inner fight with herself not to slaughter everyone around her. So she is a hero, a character that is a proper hero, because she's troubled. She goes through trials and tribulations, but at the same time, the catchphrases she very often has in this comic book are funny. So you even laugh reading this comic. So it's not just, you know, black and white or grey character that would really not entertain you in any way. So she both entertains you and make you feel sorry for her, make you identify with her. So she really is a colorful character. So to get back to the anatomy of you know, the Rob Liefeld's characters or his drawings. So for instance, they were also people are very yes. I just skipping here and there. Here's Deadpool. Yeah. By the way, one of his first appearances. They're complaining that he draws the pictures in a way that he doesn't show people's feet, but this couldn't be far from the truth, because I can see many feet drawn, right, by Rob Liefeld. So he definitely doesn't, you know, hide people's feet. And as far as the anatomy goes, I'm calling it Rob Liefeld's style. As I said at the beginning of this video, every single good artist has his or her own style. So, for instance, look at two other artists that I love, Simon Bisley and Mike Mignola. Very different from each other and very different from Rob Liefeld, right? It is, by the way, this is a pin-up made by Mike Mignola, right? So, as you can see, very different from Rob Liefeld. Both of these men, both Simon Bisley and Mike Mignola, have their own style, and the anatomy of their characters couldn't be further from reality. Comic books should be fun. As I said, comic books should be escapism, right? They should help you escape reality. You should enjoy them. Ideally, forget about the world around you and just enjoy the reading. And enjoy looking at funny, in the case of American comic books, colorful pictures. So that's what Rob Liefeld has always been achieving. It's not about an absolute anatomical correctness. It's just if you wanted anatomical correctness, look somewhere else. There are only very few comic book artists that actually draw their characters looking like people from the primary real world. And they might be good, but it's not the same. It's not, in comics there should be some sort of exaggeration. There should be hyperbole. Because it's not real. It's a fun read to escape reality. So I call Rob Liefeld's art style, right? It isn't incorrect. So once more, I'm going to show you a page, some page that I find intriguing. For instance, for example, where is it? I don't know, something colorful. Yeah, so this is a crossover between Spider-Man and X-Force that was actually drawn horizontally. So look at that. I call that pure action. Look at the colors. It's fun. Definitely a fun to read. And I do recommend anything by Rob Liefeld if you want to have a good comic book fun. So that was my video in defense of Rob Liefeld. What do you think, my friends? Do you like Rob Liefeld's style? Do you like his art or not? And what do you think about what I said? Do you share my opinions, or does your opinion differ in any way? Let me know in the comments down below. And that will be all from me, my friends. See you soon, and bye.